Hey there, and welcome back to Batman Week here on the channel. Every day I'm posting Batman videos leading up to this year's Batman Day. And so last year I made a video looking at 5 Batman Facsimile comics I wanted. And one of them actually got made. So fingers crossed, maybe something on this year's list happens too. So if you're unfamiliar, Facsimile comics are reprints of comic books where they're presented just the way they were printed originally. So that includes the complete stories, any backups, any advertisements, or letters columns, that kind of thing. And it's really just sort of like a time capsule for what these books were. And they're a lot of fun, especially for a more expensive kind of book that, might be outside of your price range. It's a good way to kind of have these in your collection. As you can see here, DC has done a plethora of Batman Facsimile editions, but there's so many good Batman stories out there, I think there's still some that could be printed, and so that's what I'm going to talk about here today. So first up on my list is Batman 416 from 1988, and this is a story called White Golden Truth, and this is written by Jim Starlin with art by Jim Aparo and Mike DiCarlo. So the reason I picked this one is because this is a really good story. It's just sort of a character piece almost, with Jason Todd and Nightwing working together. So we've got the first 2 Robins here interacting at a time when they really didn't that much. There's not a lot of stories with them together, before Jason's death and Death in the Family. And so this is a really good story featuring those 2 and kind of their perspectives on being Robin and how they kind of relate to each other. Now, DC Studios is producing an animated feature called Dynamic Duo with the both of them. So I feel like there's a really good chance of this one becoming a facsimile edition or getting reprinted at some point, just because of that. And again, it is kind of the quality of the story is why it's on the list here. And I don't think a lot of people know about this one, which is a shame. But I feel like it was just sort of like in between like year 1 and like Nightfall and stuff like that. So I think it maybe gets overlooked for bigger stories that were sort of on either end of it. But yeah, it's a really good story. If you can find this, I definitely recommend picking it up. But again, I bet there's going to be a lot of Robin stuff coming ahead of the Dynamic Duo animated movie. So I feel like this has got a pretty good chance of being reprinted. Next up is Detective Comics number 298 from 1961. This is the first appearance of the second Clayface, Matt Hagen. While Clayface first appeared in Detective Comics number 40, that appearance was Basil Carlo, the original Golden Age Clayface. Matt Hagen is the one that is the star of the new Clayface movie that DC Studios is coming out with. He's also closer to the animated series version, which is what they seem to kind of be going for in the movie. So I feel like there's a good chance this one gets made. I could also see them doing Detective Comics number 40, but I feel like this one might be more of a priority just to let the general public know who this Matt Hagen Clayface is. And while it sounds like the final version in the movie might be sort of a combination of the two, like the animated series was, this is closer to how I think he'll end up being portrayed in the movie, where it's sort of the shape-shifting clay monster guy. So I feel like there's a pretty good chance of this one being done as a facsimile. It hasn't been reprinted in quite a while, I think. It's not in any of the omnibus editions yet and that kind of thing. So it's not that easy to track down and read this story. And I feel like they'll probably be putting out a lot of Clayface product before the Clayface movie premieres. So again, I think there's a good chance of this one getting made. My next pick for a story to be reprinted as a facsimile edition is World's Finest Comics number 3. And so the reason for this is the first appearance of the Scarecrow. So I think a lot of people don't realize that Scarecrow first appeared in World's Finest. They probably assume it was an issue of Detective or Batman from back in the day. But this is where he first appeared. And so again, this is a book that's just way out of reach of most modern collectors. It's a pretty pricey book these days. So it would be nice to get like a nice reprint of this for the collection. And what I'm looking at here is the Batman Golden Age Omnibus Volume 1. And so it just reprints the Scarecrow story in here. So it doesn't have the Superman story that would have been presented along with this issue. So it would be nice to get a facsimile edition of some of these early World's Finest that feature both stories together. But yeah, I think it'll probably take a media appearance of Scarecrow in a TV show or a movie or something like that for this to happen. But again, some of the early World's Finest I think would make real good candidates for facsimile editions. So hopefully we get this someday. Another book that I think would be a good contender for a facsimile edition is Batman 457 from 1990. And so this is the first time that Tim Drake appeared as Robin. And so we've got a really good story here called Master of Fear, written by Alan Grant with art by Norm Brayfogle and Steve Mitchell. And so this is Batman fighting Scarecrow. We get a little recap of the Scarecrow's origin here, which we just talked about. But we've got Batman kind of on the ropes here. So Scarecrow has captured him and is sort of subjecting him to the fear gas. And Tim busts in, and you see him kind of deal with his own fears here too as he's exposed to the Scarecrow's gas. But then we also see what happens to Jonathan Crane when he gets a taste of his own medicine there. But, you know, Tim Drake saves the day and rescues Batman. And at the end here, we get the premiere of his new costume. I think there's a decent chance of this getting reprinted. There is the aforementioned Dynamic Duo cartoon movie coming out, which has a couple Robins in it. I don't think Tim Drake will be in that necessarily, but there's also rumors of Robin appearing in a, you know, James Gunn's Brave and the Bold movie, however that works out. There are rumors of, or maybe it's just fans' wishes of Robin appearing in the next Matt Reeves Batman movie, but I get the feeling we're on the verge of having a lot of Robin product come our way. And again, this is the 85th anniversary of the character too, so it would be a good time to kind of start doing some more Robin stuff. So yeah, I think this is a good candidate for a facsimile edition, or at least a collection of Robin stories that features this. But yeah, something I would like to see, but I feel like other Robin stuff might have priority dealing with the characters that are actually in the movies, which I unfortunately don't think Tim Drake is at this point. Now, before I get to my last pick here on the list, I want to do sort of an honorable mention. So this is Detective Comics number 32 from 1939. And I bring this up because we did get a reprint facsimile edition of Detective Comics 31. And so this is the first appearance of the Mad Monk, but this is the second part of the story. So issue 31 is to be continued into this. And so this is the continuation of the Mad Monk storyline. And again, it's just real kind of old school classic Golden Age Batman. I feel like we probably would have got this already if we were going to. I'm worried that it's maybe a harder sell because we only have the tiny little Batman here on the cover. He's not the focus of the cover yet. Again, I think this might have still been early days where they weren't sure how well Batman was selling. And because Detective Comics was an anthology which featured other stories. So, again, a complete issue of that with the other backup stories would be nice, too. And it would help kind of finish the Mad Monk storyline. This is the Golden Age Batman Omnibus Volume 1 again. And, unfortunately, you know, this is a pretty pricey book. So, this may not be within everybody's budget. But, hopefully, a, you know, more affordable facsimile edition would be. So, again, just sort of the completionist in me wants them to finish this out here. Next, we have JLA number 90 from 2004. And this is a story called Perchance that's written by Joe Kelly with Chris Cross as the penciler and Tom Wynn as inker. And so this story sort of examines a relationship between Batman and Wonder Woman. And I feel like this was something they were kind of teasing on the Justice League animated series for a while. And so they were kind of exploring that a little bit in the comic here. But this story has Wonder Woman sort of dreaming and then showing different ways, like how their relationship would work if they stayed together and sort of how they influence each other. You know, sometimes Wonder Woman becomes darker because of Batman, or Batman becomes a little lighter because of Wonder Woman. And so it's just sort of like an evaluation of their relationship and like what could happen. And there's a lot of fun, different designs for the characters in here, which I'm kind of surprised no one's made action figures of before. But again, I feel like this was a story that a lot of people talked about when it first came out, but it kind of died down after that. So I feel like you don't hear about it as much anymore. But it's a fun story, you know, just sort of like a done-in-one. So you'd really just need like one issue to reprint, and then that would be it for the whole story. But yeah, just sort of a fun kind of what-if story with Batman and Wonder Woman here. And yeah, I don't think this is on anybody's radar to be reprinted or anything. I don't think the issue's that hard to find. But if they were going to do one, I would recommend this one. I think it's a good story and it holds up pretty well. And so those are my picks for 5 Batman Facsimile comics I'd like to see. Again, I think some of them have better chance of being made than others. But, you know, one I suggested last year, Detective Comics 31, actually did get a Facsimile edition. So I feel like none of these are really outside the realm of possibility, especially with as many Facsimile editions that DC produces. You know, there's a few every month. What do you think? Do you think these are good picks? Is there something I forgot? Is there something that should be on the list? Are there Facsimile editions you'd like to see? Let me know in the comments below. You know, again, this is kind of wide open, I would think. DC has no problems with printing Facsimile editions. So, yeah, I feel like some of these are just a matter of time, but what are your thoughts? If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to catch my other Batman videos all week long for Batman Week. I have a Batman Week playlist on the channel where you can catch up on any videos you missed, and I also have the ones from last year, too, on there. So be sure to check them out, and thanks for watching. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter/X at Detective651, also on Instagram at Detective651. Be sure to check out my t-shirt store at tpublic.com/user/Detective651. I've got a lot of nerdy designs on there, and there's sales all the time, so check it out frequently.